We now have many choices for voice-activated smart devices in our homes. Amazon Echo or Alexa, the Google Home were the first major brands. Now Apple has joined in with the Apple HomePod. Jack Sunday and Amy Eiler from It Takes Two.
All right.
From the mighty KFGO 790 in Fargo will be joining us for a special twin broadcast, or simulcast, I guess you could say.
Wow, heavy.
With us being in Fargo, and they'll be over here in the Bismarck-Mandan area at the same time. So that'd be pretty cool. A little bit later in the show, and also we're going to be going over some of the top-breaking technologies of 27. And these breakthroughs are simply amazing, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. At the control panel, producer extraordinaire Jim Walsh.
Ha!
How you doing, man?
Not too bad.
Yeah?
Had a good night's sleep.
Did you?
Yeah.
You look kind of refreshed today.
Thank you. Thank you.
As opposed to normally when you come in Mondays and not as much. Just like me.
Yeah.
We always have what we call Monday head.
Monday head. You come in, it's...
That's right. Nick Ressler, my business partner, has a severe case of Monday head almost every week. So, yeah.
What's problematic is when the Monday head lingers into Tuesday.
That is
Wednesday,
true, and sometimes that happens, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So last week we were talking about the Amazon Whole Foods or takeover.
Right.
Walmart is basically dropping out of that, so it sounds like Amazon is a full go for taking over Whole Foods. So that's interesting.
So the question is, how is that going to change the way we shop for groceries?
It'll be interesting to see, won't it?
Because both Amazon and Whole Foods, they have unique ways of doing things.
They do. So I think this will be, I'm sure they'll figure it out. I would say Amazon has a plan, or they wouldn't.
And it will have an influence on the whole market.
It'll dramatically change how we buy groceries in the future, I think. So, SpaceX, a banner year for them. They've already had 8 completed space missions. So it's a record for them already.
Yeah.
In fact, they only did 8 all of 2016. They expect that they'll do 20 this year. So.
Now, I haven't heard that much about it.
Well, it doesn't make a lot of news anymore because going to space isn't like what it used to be, is it? Yeah, they have 20 scheduled space launches this year. They've basically taken over a lot of what NASA used to do for like their regular maintenance.
Right.
So they basically bid on a job, and NASA says, "Yep, you guys get to do that one because we can't do it for that price." So that's what's been going on.
I know out of Virginia, there's a launch pad down on the Virginia Peninsula.
Really?
And there's a lot of launching that's been going on the last few months.
Is this through SpaceX, or is there another company?
I don't know. But I just find it interesting that it used to be it was all about Florida.
It was.
All about Canaveral.
Yep. I believe that that day is coming. I mean, that'll always be a prominent place to launch from, of course. But I see New Mexico. I didn't realize the Virginia aspect, so that's interesting.
Well, it's on the Delmarva Peninsula, which includes Delaware and part of Maryland and a little tiny bit of Virginia. And it's in the Virginia part. I see. Right down toward Norfolk, Virginia.
Okay. I suppose when they launch, they can go over the ocean so that way it doesn't...
Well, yeah, they go with the curve. They go with the rotation of the Earth, which means they go east. So the ideal thing is to be on the East Coast so if there's a problem, they can dump in the ocean.
So I wonder what the deal is with New Mexico. Is it just that it's so vast there?
Yeah, a lot of open country, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because to the east of that is Texas.
Right.
But a lot of that is open country, too.
So I would imagine that has a lot to do with that. Yeah. So the BlackBerry. Did you used to have a BlackBerry?
No, never had one. I know people who did.
Okay. They've changed their company over the last couple of years, basically moving away from making devices more to software, and a company actually bought them out with their devices, and they actually showed a profit for the first time in many years last quarter. But that went the other way or 2 quarters ago, so that went the other way this last quarter when that buyout wasn't part of their equation. So BlackBerry still struggles.
They're in the red.
Yeah. And hopefully they'll maybe figure that out. But that might be one of those things that, they were such an advanced company, when they first brought out. In fact, I would say most of the corporate world used BlackBerries for corporate email.
Oh, yeah, it was the cutting edge for a while there.
For a long time. So pretty amazing how that goes. But anyway, some of the updates there and some of the trending news, I guess. So we're going to get into the 10 breakthrough technologies. So Jack and Amy are going to join us about 40 past the hours, how this is going to work. So we're going to have 2 regular segments. We're going to have a very short segment, and then we'll have a longer segment to end the show because of that. So a little different than what we normally do. But Anyway, some of these breakthroughs, Jim, that we're going to be talking about are absolutely just amazing. And the first one we're going to be talking about is reversing paralysis. Paralysis.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, and a lot of it is spinal cord injury, and the ability to reconstruct the spinal cord in such a way that it works again after it's been injured is almost impossible by current technologies. Now, that might change in the future, of course, but right now, so what they're doing is they're putting a brain implant in, and then they do what's referred to as a neural bypass. So they'll put another implant in on the other side of the severed spinal cord or the injured spinal cord, right? And then you can actually move again.
Now, are we talking stem cells?
No, this is actually just technology.
Oh, really?
Just technology. So there's some type of this electronic implant that goes in your brain, sends a signal. Think of it like your Bluetooth phone talking to your Bluetooth headset, right?
Yeah.
So this will actually send a signal wirelessly that goes around the injury. So, and then, clamps onto the spinal cord or whatever it is that they're doing on the other side and allows that person to start moving again.
Real cyborg stuff.
This is incredible.
Yeah.
And this is a game changer for many people. I mean, it really is significant. And they're talking about that the availability of this, they're testing now,
right?
But they feel that this will be commonplace in 10 to 15 years.
Amazing.
It is amazing. Absolutely amazing. So be on the lookout for that. And again, look, if you have somebody that might be interested in knowing more about this technology, it's a neural bypass. So if you want to Google it, Google neural bypass to learn more about what's going on in that realm.
Yeah.
I think it's just amazing. Of course, self-driving trucks are going to become a big deal. Tractor trailers without a human at the wheel will soon barrel onto highways near you.
Including right outside the door here.
Right outside the door.
Up and down State Street.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, what does this mean for the nation's 1.7 million truck drivers? But that is kind of it is a good question. As with most technology that's coming down the pike right now, it's going to have a huge impact on jobs.
Yeah.
It's going to impact this. I just, I don't know if the impact's going to be as great as what people think it's going to be because most people don't want these type of jobs anymore.
Well, one of the things the government's talking about, and this is something that has been in discussion off and on for years, and now, once again, they're starting to get serious with it because of these issues of the major job displacement, is some kind of national minimum income.
Okay.
The conservative and libertarian wing, they had a thing called negative income tax, which was developed by people like Milton Friedman back in the 70s.
Okay.
And they're looking at that. Of course, the Democrats, they have their own ideas. But I think you're going to see this idea once again taking shape as more and more people are becoming concerned about the idea of those of us who are afraid of becoming the buggy whip salesman of the 21st century.
Right. So when you say a minute, you're talking about that every person in a working age would get some type of income regardless?
Every person of working age would be guaranteed of a minimum of, say, $12,000 a year.
Okay, no matter what.
No matter what.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there's some very obvious questions there, but the thing is, it is getting serious discussion in the left and right wing think tanks. So everybody's on board with at least discussing the idea.
Well, you wonder about, and I know we're pushing up against the clock here, but you wonder about, if your job's being replaced by a truck or an autonomous truck, for example, right? Isn't there some type of way that truck still derives a wage for you? Even though you're not running it, for example. Does that make sense?
The thing is, the technology will need people to repair and build and maintain the technology.
Absolutely.
Although the person who's getting displaced may not necessarily be the person qualified to do that.
Right.
That's the obvious
There's never been a time with technology that it hasn't created more jobs. It's just that the disruption is going to be so great in the next 20 years that it's going to be hard to keep up.
If you make buggy whips for a living and you're displaced by the automobile, you're probably not qualified to work on cars.
Right.
Without some kind of training, at least.
Right. Exactly. All right, everybody, at the break, we'll continue our discussion on these amazing innovations that's come about in 2017. So you want to stay tuned for this.
Right now, 72.
On Twitter, Facebook, online, and YouTube. Supertalk1270.com.
Follow the Guru of Geek at Facebook.com/The Tech Ranch or Twitter at Guru of Geek or thetechranch.com. Here again is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we're talking about the unbelievable advances that are being made here in 2017. We were just talking about autonomous trucks, self-driving trucks, and the displacement that it could cause in the job market. 1.7 million people in the country are currently truck drivers.
Right.
So if 10 years from now, most of our trucks are driving by themselves, will that actually create a lot of job displacement? I'm not really sure, Jim, on truck drivers, if that's going to make a big deal, because the average truck driver right now is 56 years old.
Yeah.
So, and when I talk to young people, I talk to large groups of young people at college campuses and things, I ask this question almost every time I speak about how many of you aspire to be a truck driver.
Yeah, not too many.
In fact, I've never had anybody raise their hand.
Really?
Ever. So this is something that, is generational, for many generations. My grandfather, my father, now I drive a truck, right?
Yeah.
So there is that commonality going on, but this generation coming up just isn't as concerned about that. So I'm not sure if that's going to be a big deal or not. And I think the short haul type of stuff will always have to have somebody, driving them.
Yeah.
So you just never know. But there's certainly job displacement coming because of technology. And you were just talking about the basic income. So explain that theory to me a little bit more.
Okay, I sent you an article which I posted to my site on Facebook, and you can post to yours, I guess, if you like. The debate is about whether the country needs a national basic income, which means that every able-bodied working person, if they're not able to work, they would qualify for the basic income. The idea is that nobody would get anything less than, say, $12,000 to $15,000 a year, regardless of what their job situation is.
And the scenario then would be that this would take place or take the, like our welfare system, you wouldn't have to worry about that anymore. But so because everybody gets this, right?
Yeah, and there's a lot of everybody would get it, and there's a lot of issues obviously to tackle. How do you pay for it? How do you deal with the incentive issue? Are people going to be have the incentive not to work?
Right.
All of these debates that come from one side or the other about this. But what's interesting in my mind is the fact that many people who you think would not be interested in this idea are at least looking at it. Many of the fiscal conservative and even the libertarian people who are generally pro-market and kind of frown upon the idea of things like a minimum wage, or at least they have in the past.
Right.
They're taking a serious look at this idea.
I would imagine
in order to close the gaps.
Right, right. I would imagine the biggest thing would be, how do you pay for it? I just don't know how that but somebody's creative out there and probably can pencil that out, so that would be interesting.
Milton Friedman had this idea, and he was pretty conservative economically. He had this idea for a negative income tax. Now, for the specifics, I guess you could Google it and find out.
Sure.
But the idea is that, theoretically at least, it would have the best of both possible worlds. It would give you money if you can't get any, but it would also have the added advantage of at a certain point, you'd be better off working, so you would have the added incentive of finding work if you can.
Interesting. Oh, very, very good. All right, so I guess we won't tackle too much more on the job displacement thing. We'll have to have a whole show about that sometime.
I think so, yeah. Maybe get one of these guys from like the Cato Institute.
That's a good idea,
one of those
actually.
Think tanks
That's a good idea. So, all right, next up on the list of amazing innovations going on this year is face detecting systems. So, and I'm sure many of you, like, when you go into like security checkpoints or whatever, a lot of these face detection systems are being used now. But what's interesting is that we're starting to see more and more of these move into our everyday stuff. For example, you can pay with your face. So I've always, I forget how the saying used to go.
My face is my ticket.
Or you're going to pay for that with your good looks, or however that used to be, right? Yeah, well, it's almost to that point now where actually facial recognition softwares will allow you to actually pay for goods by just having your face scanned.
Well, one of the old jokes was a guy would say, hey, you got to let me in here. My face is my ticket.
Yes, yeah.
And the guy says, if you don't get out here, I'm going to punch your ticket.
Well, that's exactly how it'll be in the future. You might not even have to have a ticket anymore when you go to sports concerts or sports events or whatever, because they'll just scan your face and allow you to go
read
in.
the patterns in your eyeball.
Well, actually, it's actually quicker, I guess, to read your entire face.
Okay.
So, something about that. So anyway, you're going to see more and more of this. There's a company called Face Plus out of China, and actually they're already using a system called Alipay, Alipay.
Okay.
And 120 million people in China are already using this. So when you go buy your groceries or whatever, they just scan your face and away it goes. So you have some type of like a credit card or something attached to your face, and they just scan it and go. So
hey, you're walking around with this thing on your face all day.
It's kind of funny, actually. So I suppose that takes the place of, of course, the mark of the devil, the 666 thing that, there's a time not that long ago we were talking about, barcodes being on our heads and on our arms. And
1984,
of course, chips in our hands or whatever. You don't have to have any of that anymore because your face will be just that, So that's I don't know how I feel about that, actually. It's kind of an invasion in privacy, too, because no matter where you go now, they'll be able to scan you and pull up records on you if you want. But there's some advantages to it as well. So,
right.
Practical quantum computers. So are you familiar with a quantum computer?
I've heard the term, but I have no idea what it's about.
Well, they haven't been able to. So the quantum computer is based on qubits or cupids. Let's see, QUPIDS. And they've had a problem with the stability of these. In fact, you have to be close to absolute zero for these things to even work. And if the temperature gets a little higher, they break apart or whatever. But there's been some recent breakthroughs in this. And the other thing is that using cupids, I don't know if I'm cupids. I'll have to check into the pronunciation of that. QUPIDS. So, if you're using 10 to 20, you're not really, advancing much farther along than what you can with a regular computer. But if you get close to 50, if you can use 50 of these, then you're at that supercomputer level. Well, they talk about the ability to put 10, 20, 50 million of these things into a computer. Okay. So if you're at 50 of these and you're already at a supercomputer state, if you can get tens of millions of these things into a computer, you're talking about the ability to do things that we haven't even envisioned yet. Calculating things that are way beyond anything that we've ever comprehended before. So this is very, very interesting, and they feel that in the next 5 to 10 years that these things will be available on the market.
Right.
So, and I would imagine the miniaturization of devices are going to be big as well. Yeah. Because you'll be able to get a lot more computing power in a lot less space.
You mean like nanotechnology?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Nanobots.
360-degree selfies. Of course, 360-degree cameras are becoming more and more readily available. In fact, you can buy them now.
Oh, okay.
And we could put a camera right in the studio here, Jim, and one camera would take a 360-degree photo or video of what's going on in here at any given time.
Okay.
And then people can hop on to, let's say we had a website or whatever, people could hop on there, and then they can move the view that they wanted to see on their screen. So if they wanted to look at you, if they wanted to look at me, if they want to look at the logo, whatever they wanted to do, they could do that. So that's pretty cool as well. And these things are available and actually pretty reasonable. You can get a 360-degree camera on your phone, for example, plugs into your phone for under $100.
Oh, okay.
And, of course, they have others as well. We'll have to... we were talking about putting something in the studio anyway. Maybe the choice would be to do a 360-degree camera.
You're already seeing this. A lot of cities have, like Paris has one, I think, on top of the Eiffel Tower.
Right. You're starting to see more and more of this all the time. So it's very, very cool stuff. So, after the break, everybody, we will continue this conversation on the newest technology. And we'll be talking about one in particular. Well, actually, there's two: hot solar cells and gene therapy. Gene therapy is absolutely amazing. So
Jack and Amy are also coming up.
Jack and Amy will be up after the break as well, everybody.
Right now, 72.
Dave Ramsey is heard here. Super Talk 1270.
We're back to the Tech Ranch. Stream this program now at supertalk1270.com. Here is your guru of geek, Marlo Anderson.
And we want to thank everybody who follows us on the Tech Podcast Network. We're also on the Blueberry Network, Roku, iTunes, and tuned in. Let's see what else. And, of course, our own app, Radio Pup. All kinds
Radio
of
Pup,
places
Town
that
Square Media.
you can join us later on. This will be a very, very short segment, everybody.
Yeah, we'll break in about 4 minutes.
Okay, as we have Jack and Amy, they'll be joining us at 22 the hour. So we're going to make this a very short segment so we can join them as a simulcast over in Fargo, North Dakota as well. So we're talking a little bit about the amazing advances that have been going on, and I know we're short on time, so I'm just going to hop right over to gene therapy. So this is amazing, Jim.
Yeah.
So basically, scientists have solved fundamental problems that were holding back cures for rare hereditary diseases. So they're going to start taking the same approach with gene therapy that they have done on a couple of things up to this point, and they're going to start tackling cancer, heart disease, and other common illnesses. So there's this one I'm trying to read though. Okay, so SCID, a very rare hereditary disease that you get. Most children born with this don't live past the age of 2. So it's a very, very big deal for infants. However, they have this new gene therapy. It's a one-time only treatment, and in this last case that they've done, it was actually a set of twins, and the one had SCID and is now living a regular life.
Good.
One treatment. So basically, it's a virus that they put into the body that has the new gene, and then that new gene takes the place of the mutant gene or the defective gene in your body. And they're now working on ways for people who've been blind that you just do this one-time treatment and bang, you're able to see again. Wow. And they're thinking that they're going to be able to do this with all kinds of things, including heart disease, cancer, many common illnesses. So this is amazing technology, available now to some degree, but will really become a big deal in the next 5 to 10 years.
So having parents with a bum ticker is no longer a death sentence for you necessarily.
Might not be anymore, because you'll just be able to go in and have an injection of the new of the corrected gene, and it'll take that place. So all right. Well, I guess I know it's a very short segment here, but
we'll take a quick break and then we'll get Jack and Amy.
Yeah. It should be fun to be talking with them. They'll be over here in our area, and we'll be broadcasting live in Fargo. Come on back for this great little event we got going on.
Right now, 72.
Here's Sean Hannity, weekday afternoons on Super Talk 1270.
Follow the Guru of Geek everywhere he goes. Post your comment.
Hi, hang on.
.com. Once again, your Guru of Geek, Marlo Anderson.
And I think we have Jack and Amy on the phone.
Hello. Hey, Jack, you there? Amy?
Hey, it's Amy.
Hey,
oh, hi, Amy.
How you doing?
Hi.
Let me turn you up a little
I'm
bit.
going to get done with Jack here.
Okay.
So we'll both be with you here.
Wonderful.
All righty.
11:40, and are we hooked up to
We're hooked up.
Ranch?
Yeah.
Hey, Tech Ranch.
Hey, Jack and Amy.
Nice to be with you.
From our.
Can you tell our listeners what the Tech Ranch is and where you are and all of that?
Marlo?
Absolutely. Hey, it's good to have you guys on, by the way. This is the Guru of Geek, of course, Marlo Anderson, and I'm sitting next to the producer extraordinaire, Jim Walsh.
And comical sidekick here.
And, and that would be the Tech Geezer, actually.
Yes, he's here somewhere.
Somewhere, yes. We cover a lot on technology, of course, and we like to talk to you guys occasionally about it, so we thought it'd be fun to have a simulcast.
Who is the fellow that I've seen on your website who, when he gets those calls asking for money to win, lotteries or that he runs the video and then he just plays along with them and messes with their mind?
Yeah,
that guy?
That's actually my business partner, Nick Ressler.
Yeah.
And it is so funny. I have to leave the room sometimes because I'm laughing so hard.
Sheriff Nick.
Sheriff Nick?
Well, how about if I send you $5,000 now and then okay. Anyway, what are we talking
Anyway, we wanted to talk about smart speakers today, like Amazon Echo and the Google Home. Do you guys have these in your home right now?
Well,
I don't know,
but I do. I have. In fact, I have probably a half a dozen of them in my home. Of the Amazon one.
I don't have any money. I'm in radio.
I think they're pretty cheap. I think they're like $40 or something.
If you have several dozen of, or half a dozen of them, 6 of them in your home, do they talk to each other?
Well, sometimes
They keep each other company when you're out of the house?
Well, Siri and Alexa can talk to each other for a short period of time. I've tried that a little bit. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah.
You know, a friend of mine at the gym this morning, and he's kind of, well, he's in his 70s, and he's pretty computer smart. I guess he wiped his computer or something. He got some kind of a weird thing, and so he did that, and he was proud of himself. He said it's working really, really well. But what's her name? Alexa's kind of bossy now.
Oh.
She goes, do you want your music? Do you want your news? He says she never used to ask for anything, but all those things that he would ask for on occasion, she now asks him if you want it. It's like have you heard of such a thing?
I haven't, and
me neither.
I haven't had that experience yet. So maybe there's some type of app you can add that she has a little bit more of an aggressive personality.
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't know. I'll have to check that out. So do you guys have any of these?
I don't. I want to get the one that will do more. They've got one that does more now. It costs like $149, and it'll place calls for you and stuff like that.
Right.
So that's the Amazon Alexa. That's the one. So I have that as well, and that new app, by the way, is fantastic. Because it's like your phone. I mean, you can add apps to Alexa, and the sound that comes from them are amazing too. In fact, that's what I use for my stereo all the time.
I like the idea of the convenience of being able to say to Alexa, say, pay my car bill,
right,
and it'll take care of it right there for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's something new to me. Amy mentioned that today. So you can actually order Alexa or any of those things to pay my XL energy bill.
Yeah, you can set it up to do that. Absolutely.
Right. And if you need some items that maybe you buy from Amazon on occasion, if it's food or whatever, you can just order that stuff by voice now.
Does it recognize your voice? Because I wouldn't want someone pranking me by ordering a bunch of pizzas or something like that. Well, maybe I would.
Well, what's happening is, and it's funny, sometimes on TV you see these commercials where the guy is ordering Alexa to get him a pizza or whatever, and the Alexa in the room there where the TV is on at your home hears this and actually tries to do what the guy on TV says.
I guess they had an issue with that on the Super Bowl.
Right.
Yeah, because they had a thing that said Amazon order flowers, and I guess there was like 100,000. I forget what the number was, but like there's 100,000 orders of flowers that were immediately placed.
Oh my God!
Well, I love tech.
If you're the flower company, it's great.
They were loving it.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely loving this. So.
Yeah. What are these called? Electronic personal devices or something? What do they call?
Well, we just call them, smart speakers, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But smart personal devices as well. And Google has one too, the Google Home. That's probably the second most popular one. And then the reason we're talking about this is Apple's coming out with one that they call the HomeBot. And that one's going to run $350. It's going to be a little more spendy than the other two, but it supposedly will do more things.
Like what, I wonder?
Define do more things. What is it going to be able to do that these two aren't?
Well, I know it's Siri enabled, so you'll be able to use Siri with it. It is more, it's better as far as the speaker goes. They're actually saying that they're going to compete with Sonos for speaker systems. So I'm guessing that you're going to be able to pair these to make like surround sound systems and that type of thing as well.
Interesting. I don't have one at all in my home. I have my iPhone, and I use it, I guess, the same way because I can ask. I'm even scared. Sometimes I say seriously, and Siri starts like talking to me while I'm on the air. But I use my phone as I would one of these. I could say, "Hey Siri, what is the weather going to be like today? Hey Siri, what was the final score of the Twins game?" And she answers me from my phone. I don't even need to buy one of these smart speakers and carrying around an iPhone, so essentially it already is.
Right, but I think about like in my garage, for example. This time of year, I like to putz around in the evenings out there, And it's nice to be able to, if I want to listen to a little Phil Collins or whatever, I can just say, play me some Phil Collins from across the room, and it sounds fantastic out there.
Well, I think what you said about the advanced forms of this personal assistant or whatever they are, having good speaker systems, like Bose type or whatever, I think that's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. And even these smaller ones have Bluetooth capability to them. So if you want to spend, $40 or $50 and get the cheaper version of these, as long as you can pair it to a Bluetooth system, you can use, you have amazing speakers with them, which is great.
Yeah.
Hey, you guys, I heard on the news this morning that today is the date 10 years ago when the Apple phone or the iPhone was introduced to the world 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it talked about in the last 10 years, I think Apple stock was $17 back then, and now it's like $170.
Yeah.
And it's because of that iPhone and then the iPad and subsequent technology that came about as a result of that. But the gist of it was so dramatic that perhaps with the advent of similar devices, that in the next 10 years, the iPhone will be like the Viewmaster is to us, just some weird little thing. It may not even exist. It might be something altogether different, an implant in the back of your brain or something. Well, that's where I went with it.
A toy from an earlier time.
Right. But, you think about
11 years ago, it didn't exist, and that might be the case in another 10 years.
Yeah.
You think about what that has done, though. I mean, you have companies that have come about because of the ability to, with your iPhone and now your Android, of course, with apps, right? Lyft and Uber would not be in existence today if it wasn't for that forward thinking at that time, And there are many companies like that, and worth billions of dollars now because of. And this concept of having a phone or a supercomputer in your pocket that you can do things with, it's just amazing.
I see guys or people driving through a popular coffee shop here in town and just hold up their cell phone.
Yeah, I do that.
Yeah.
I use my app to get coffee.
For crying out loud.
Yeah, I do. Well, and that's a great point.
Ah, those crazy
all
kids.
These businesses wouldn't even be in existence without our smartphones.
Right.
I hadn't even thought about that. And we were talking about this before we hooked up with you guys on the Tech Ranch, but how many jobs are not even in existence when these grade schoolers are thinking and talking about what they want to be when they grow up. They probably don't even know what they're going to be when they grow up because their job doesn't even exist yet.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about job displacement too, and how technology, will get rid of jobs. And we were talking about truck drivers earlier, of course, with self-driving trucks coming about, and it's 1.7 million people who could be displaced potentially with self-driving trucks, right? But when we're talking about these other companies that have emerged, we don't even know yet, what happened when the iPhone came out and all these other companies emerged. Technology always creates more new jobs. You just don't know what they're going to be yet.
Yeah, imagine being some millennial and you take a job at the age of 35 that you didn't even know existed 5 years before. So you take this job and 10 years later you're laid off and the job no longer exists. That's actually how it's going to be for a lot of people.
It's going to be. Yep, I agree.
They say, talk about jobs that didn't exist 10 years ago. Maybe here's a job that didn't exist 5 years ago. Maintenance of drones.
Yeah.
Right.
Crying out loud. Yeah. And now there's little businesses popping up, and that's going to be a huge growth industry. Not only to develop them and enhance them and all of that, that's a whole other thing, but just to replace parts and make parts and put them on and diagnose.
The good news for all of this is that it sounds like the Tech Ranch has a lot of job security in the future.
Well, we hope so.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for simulcasting with us today.
Thank you.
Hey, with Jack and Amy.
It's been great, you guys. Have a great day, everybody in Fargo.
You too. Bye-bye.
Take care.
That is the Tech Ranch with
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Jack and Sandy doing their thing. What's their show called? It Takes Two.
Jack and Amy. It takes,
Jack and Amy.
That's okay. It used to be Jack and
Sandy.
Sandy for
Hi,
many,
Sandy.
many years.
Enjoy your retirement.
Yes. Jack and Amy over in Fargo.
Jack and Amy Eiler, who was formerly the sidekick to Mr. Heitkamp.
That's correct. Yeah. Very good, Jim. So so with that, we're talking a little bit about the crazy things that have been coming about, the technologies that have been introduced in 2017. But the one thing I wanted to end the show with was, we talk about the Internet of Things all the time, right? And the sound devices we were just talking about with Jack and Amy there, right? So there's the Internet of Things, but there's also the botnet of things. So what's interesting about this is botnet. I mean, think about it. Wasn't botnet part of the Terminator series? Didn't they call it? Oh, that was Skynet.
Skynet. Yeah.
Well, somewhat similar. All right. So botnets are basically, where you have this kind of virus type of thing, that piece of software that takes over and uses computers to wage attacks on other businesses.
Sounds very
So denial of service attacks. They can use.
Well, that is the Terminator.
Yeah. They use thousands of computers to crack into banks and that type of thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's interesting is that as the security on computers has gotten better and better, some people might disagree with that because they've been hacked so many times in the last couple of years that it's hard to imagine that it's actually gotten better. But what's even more interesting is that the Internet of Things, your refrigerator, your toaster, your voice-activated device that you have in your home are also mini computers, and they're hacking into these things with this software, and instead of using computers, they're using refrigerators and toasters and whatever else, your thermostat at home, and they're going after companies. And we're laughing about this, but
you're going to be attacked by your refrigerator.
At least Netflix is going to get attacked by your refrigerator.
Oh, okay.
All right. So that's what's going on. In October, a botnet made up of 100,000 compromised gadgets, not your computers, but gadgets, knocked an internet infrastructure provider partially offline. They took down the provider DYN, resulting in cascade effects that immediately caused a long list of high-profile websites, including Twitter and Netflix, to go down. So the attack of the refrigerators basically took down Netflix last October.
Whoa.
So, and they expect that this has become a bigger and bigger problem because nobody has security on these things. You buy, and I'm just using this as an example because I'm guilty of it myself. I'll put a baby monitor in, or I'll put a surveillance camera in my home or whatever, right?
Sure.
And you just plug it in and go. You just plug it in and you go through the instructions. You go boom, 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 boom. Okay, it's done. It's ready to go. You don't go to the next part where the security thing is the big deal and you secure the device. So there are, tens of millions or hundreds of millions of devices in the United States alone that are running that have no security on them.
Yeah.
And people can hack into them and use them. Now, if you have a surveillance camera, for example, I could take you to a website right now, and I did this for another show here like 3 months ago, and there were over 10,000 cameras just in North Dakota that we could just view online. And I'm talking people's homes.
Oh, man.
Businesses, whatever. They just didn't secure them.
I mean, if it's a traffic cam, that's one thing.
That's one thing.
Yeah.
But you don't want people to be able to hack into your home surveillance system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sitting here looking at my iPhone, and, of course, on the back side of my iPhone is that little fisheye lens that you can use for taking pictures or making little films. And I wonder if I'm lying in bed at night looking at something online on my iPhone, if somebody's looking through that lens, they wouldn't see much. They'd see my toes, basically, or the cat lying at the foot of the bed.
Well, you got a camera on the other side, too,
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So, yeah, and in fact, if you ever, Mark Zuckerberg, who is the founder of Facebook, famously has a piece of black tape over his camera.
I've heard that story.
On his computers because it's easy to hack into these things and use them. So there's a lot of nefarious things that go along with this. So I guess my word of advice is that if you're installing something in your home that is not computer related, make sure you get something that has some security built into it too. Don't buy a device that has no way to secure it because they'll be able to access. Somebody out there will want to access that sometime in the future.
Now, the next logical question is, how good is the security technology? We talked before about the eternal race between the better mousetrap and the smarter mouse.
Right. Well, the security is only as good as the password that you use. So if you're using passwords like password,
the password is password.
That's right. Or your name, or something else that's easily found online about you, your phone number or whatever like that, you're going to get hacked. It's as simple as that.
I know what a lot of people do. They take some phrase.
Yep.
And let's just, I'm just going to make up one. Let's say the line from Kennedy's inaugural, ask not what your country can do for you, ask you to do for your country. Take the first letter of each word from that phrase, and then tag on some numbers at the end, like maybe 1961, which is the date. Just, I'm talking about ways you can remember this stuff.
And that's what you have to do. You have to come up with maybe something that's important to you, a phrase or whatever it might be, that you've never written down, that nobody would really know anything about, and use some derivative of that to create a password. You're absolutely right about that, Jim. And I love that idea that you just floated. So you need to be really creative, and if you use a word, for example, just putting a couple of numbers in the front and the end of it makes it significantly more difficult to crack that word. And making one a uppercase and a lowercase and adding some punctuation into there or whatever, every little bit you add helps dramatically as far as the ability to hack somebody. Because we're talking about what they do is they have these software programs that will just attack your machine, and they just keep trying different passwords until they access it. So they're going to go through, there's a list of 50 or 100 passwords that are the most commonly used passwords, and it's the first thing that they do is go through those, and they're looking for low-hanging fruit here.
Right.
So
well, it's the old joke. If the bear is chasing you, and you don't have to outrun the bear, you just have to outrun the guy next to you.
That's correct. That's exactly right. And that's what's going on. If after an hour of trying to hack into your machine that they haven't been able to hack into it, they'll move on to the next one. So make sure that your passwords are good. And I'm talking everything from Facebook to your banks and everything else, because there are so many ways that people can access your stuff nowadays. Make sure you have great passwords to stop them. So, Jim, a great show.
Likewise.
It's been one.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Are we on next week?
July 4th?
July 3rd, actually.
Oh, July 3rd. I'll have to double check.
All right. We may or may not be here next week, everybody. If not, we'll see you in a couple weeks. Have a great 4th of July, everybody.
All right.